America's story began thousands of years ago, long before it was called America. Over 15,000 years ago, during the Ice Age, people moved into this land for the first time. They came from Asia, crossing a natural bridge of ice and land that connected it to North America. These people spread out, creating communities and learning to live off the land. Over time, they built amazing civilizations. One of the greatest was in the Mississippi Valley, where a city called Cahokia grew with thousands of people. These people built massive earthen mounds and lived in harmony with nature. In the Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans built homes high in cliffs to protect themselves and their families. Each group, like the Cherokee, the Navajo, and the Lakota, developed its own ways of living, culture, and beliefs. For thousands of years, these civilizations thrived. Then, in 1492, everything changed. A man named Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, hoping to find a new route to Asia. Instead, he reached islands in the Caribbean. His journey marked the beginning of what Europeans called the Age of Exploration. After Columbus, explorers from Spain, France, and England rushed to claim lands in the Americas. They brought new goods like horses and wheat, but also diseases like smallpox, which killed millions of Native Americans. This was the beginning of a very hard time for indigenous peoples, who lost their land and freedom. In 1607, the English founded Jamestown, Virginia, the first permanent English settlement. A few years later, in 1620, the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts. They worked with local Native Americans to survive their first harsh winters. These early colonies grew into 13 separate colonies, stretching along the Atlantic coast. They thrived on farming, trade, and, sadly, enslaved labor. By the 1700s, these colonies were becoming strong, but they were not happy with how Britain ruled them. Britain taxed the colonies heavily, but gave them no say in how they were governed. Colonists grew angry, protesting with events like the Boston Tea Party. By 1776, they decided they wanted to be free from British rule. They declared independence, and the Revolutionary War began. After years of hard battles, the colonies won in 1783, and the United States of America was born. America now faced the challenge of building a nation. Leaders like George Washington and James Madison created a new government with a constitution that included a Bill of Rights to protect freedoms. The country started to grow. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase doubled its size, and settlers moved west, seeking new opportunities. But this expansion came at a terrible cost to Native Americans who were forced off their land. The 1800s also brought big changes to how people lived and worked. Machines and factories replaced hand tools, creating an industrial revolution. Cities grew, railroads spread, and new inventions made life easier for many. However, the country was deeply divided over slavery. While the North worked toward ending it, the South depended on it for their economy. This division led to the Civil War in 1861. The Civil War was one of the darkest times in American history. Brothers fought against brothers, and the nation was torn apart. But by 1865, the Union won, slavery was abolished, and the country began to rebuild. African Americans were promised freedom and rights, but those promises were often broken. Segregation laws and racism made life very hard for many Black Americans. After the war, America grew rapidly during the Gilded Age. Wealthy industrialists like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller made fortunes, while immigrants from Europe and Asia came to the country looking for a better life. They worked hard in factories and railroads, but often faced discrimination and low wages. In time, people started fighting for fairer treatment, leading to movements for workers' rights and women's suffrage. The 20th century brought even bigger changes. America became a global leader, playing key roles in both World War I and World War II. These wars showed the world America's strength and also brought Americans together to fight for freedom. After World War II, America became one of the most powerful countries on Earth. But power came with challenges. The Cold War with the Soviet Union created fear and competition, including the space race. At home, the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s pushed the country to address racism and inequality. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions to demand equal rights for all. In the 21st century, America continued to change. The September 11th attacks in 2001 shocked the nation, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Technology transformed life, connecting people through the internet and social media. Meanwhile, movements for climate change, racial justice, and equality showed that the fight for a better future was still ongoing. Today, America is a land shaped by its history, a story of struggles and triumphs, injustice and progress. It is a story of people who dream big, work hard, and strive to make their country better for the generations to come. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories of the past.